So people go, where are we? And they go, we are here. But look, that finger covers an entire kilometre. I had a sergeant who told me once if I pointed at my map with my finger, he would rip my finger off and he would then beat me to death with the soggy end of that finger. One thing people often ask me is, I love adventure and stuff, but one thing I'm not good at is navigating. And good navigation skills isn't rocket science, but it's a simple thing that can be taught. And there are a few key principles to adhere to that will help you. So it doesn't matter how good your adventure skills are or all your other skills are, if you're lost, you're lost. So these tips and tricks are about how to make sure you don't get lost. If you do get lost, how to re-find yourself and how to navigate effectively, old school, with a map, with a compass, when your GPS batteries have died. How do you navigate? Simple thing. Get ready, come on. So you are maybe a scout or an expedition leader or a climber or a mountaineer, or somebody's going to set off across the desert or into the jungle. You've got to be able to navigate effectively, especially if you're leading your group. People look to you and you need to be able to deliver, and there's nothing worse than that feeling that you're not only getting yourself lost, you're getting people that you're responsible for lost as well. One of the first things is always share the load. You're a team, don't carry it all on your own shoulders. If you ever in doubt if you're lost, stop. The inclination for so many people is that they think it's going to be okay, and they keep pushing on and they keep pushing on, and suddenly the little situation becomes a big situation, and by the time they stop, they're really lost. So if in doubt, there's no doubt. Stop, reassess, get your teammates to help you, and look at that map, look at the compass, look at the features around you, and locate yourself, orientate yourself, and make sure you know where you are at all times. I remember day one of joining the military, being taught a really simple acronym about how to navigate. And navigation is one of those sort of arts that can be quite intimidating for people, because you think, where do I even begin? And the truth is, it's much simpler than you might imagine. And this acronym, for someone like me who wasn't brilliant at academic stuff, was something I've always remembered, and it was simple, and I've lent on this so many times. And it is this: bear drinks tea for breakfast. The real version of BDTFB was a much ruder version that I was taught in the military, which won't get repeated here, but I adopted it. That's something I can remember, and it's bear drinks tea for breakfast, and it stands for this. B stands for bearing, D stands for distance, T stands for time, F stands for features, and B stands for backdrop. We're going to talk through each of those 5 things. And the thing is about navigation, you don't want to rely just on one thing. People do. They get their bearing and they think, okay, I'm heading west, and I'm going to arrive where I want to arrive. But the thing is, if you depend on one thing, there's so many factors to go wrong. You want to be depending on your bearing, but also the distance you're going to travel, the time it's going to take you, the features you're going to see en route, and the backdrop that tells you you've gone too far. So good navigators take into account all of these 5 things at all times. So the first is your bearing. And this is just an old school compass. Super simple and much more reliable than using a GPS. GPS, when it works, is fantastic. A lot of remote places though aren't going to have detailed actual cartography of the maps, and also batteries run out. These get dropped in water, or they get a bash and they stop working. You don't want to be reliant on a GPS. A GPS is a fantastic aid. Use it as something to back up what you're seeing visually with your map and with your compass. So then if you lose that or something goes wrong with that, you're not in trouble. So we've got our map. Now, ideally you want a good waterproof version, one of these, so you can get them laminated. This is a 1 in 50,000 of the Snowdonia area in North Wales. Each one of these grid squares is a kilometre, okay? Never point at a feature with your finger. So people go, where are we? And they go, we are here. But look, that finger covers an entire kilometre, okay? So never point with your finger. I had a sergeant who told me once if I pointed at my map with my finger, he would rip my finger off, and he would then beat me to death with the soggy end of that finger. And ever since then, I've never pointed a map with my finger. So I use whatever I've got, a blade of grass, you know, even if it's something smaller as that. So you can actually point at features. You can use a tip of your compass. And then look, I can actually point, I can go, look, you see where that little stream meets the other stream on that re-entrant, and you've got a path just to the south of it. You can actually see what we're looking at then. So I know if I want to go from here to here, or whichever the 2 points are on the map, I've got my bearing. I lay the compass along the line. So let's say I want to go from there to there. I lay it across there. I twist the dial. So the lines here are pointing north. See the twisty one here like this? So that is lined up with the grid lines on the actual map. Then I take it off. Then I take the compass and I twist the compass until the red bit here is lined up with the red bit there. Okay, so see that? The north there is lined up with the red arrow there. When that is lined up like that, this is my direction of travel over here. That bit there, that's giving me my direction of travel. Okay, and in that case I can read it here, 130. That's my bearing. So recap, I'm laying the compass onto the map, point A to point B. I'm twisting the dial until the red lines of the arrow on the twisty dial line up with the grid lines on the map. Then I take it off. I move my compass until the moving north needle lines up with that red arrow. And then wherever that is, my direction of travel is wherever the compass is pointing. Second, time. How long is it going to take me to go from point A to point B? I've got my bearing, I know it's 120 degrees that way. How long is it going to take me? The distance says I've got 3 of these grid squares on the map to cover. 1, 2, 3. It's about that distance. That means 3, 1, 2, 3. That's 3 kilometers, okay? And again, you can measure it exactly if you want on here. Measure it there and measure it, and you work out exactly how many kilometers you've got to go. But here's the thing, you will, if you're walking and it's flat terrain, you'll probably cover 3 kilometers an hour, okay? If you're moving faster, maybe 4 kilometers an hour. If you're in hilly terrain, you're not going to be going much faster than 3 kilometers an hour. If you're in jungle terrain, you can drop that down to 1 kilometer an hour max, okay? So work out the type of terrain you're in, how long it's going to take you to do that 3 kilometers. If I was walking in the Snowdonia Mountains here, on a nice day, it's not blowing 60-mile-an-hour winds, I would be bargaining on 3 kilometers an hour. So I now know my bearing, I know my distance, time. How long is it going to take me? We worked out, so 3 kilometers, it's going to take me an hour. Bear drinks tea. 4, F stands for the features. So what features am I going to see on that 3 kilometer hike going at 120 degrees for 1 hour? The map says I'm going to see a river, and I'm going to see a road to my left, and I'm maybe going to see a distant mountain that's always going to be on my right hand side. So I'm looking, as I'm moving, I'm always looking for the features that I'm going to be seeing along the way. Bear drinks tea for breakfast, the final B, bearings, distance, time, features, backdrop. What backdrop means is, what am I going to start to see when I've gone too far? So I might look on the map and I think, okay, I'm going to arrive at the end of my 3 kilometer hike here. I can see in front of me is going to be a forest block, big batch of forest, and I'm in open terrain at the moment. So when I hit the wood line, I know I've gone too far, okay? The backdrop might be the contour lines tell you you're starting to go downhill. That is a backdrop. So again, it's another indicator to help you on your way. So can we remember these? Bearing, distance, time, features, backdrop. Bear drinks tea for breakfast. If you follow those 5 simple principles, you'll always know where you are and you'll stop people in your party getting lost. A few key things to remember before we wrap this up. Number 1, people often look for things that often aren't there. You know, they know they're meant to have a hill on their right hand side for that whole of that 3 kilometer trek, but you've got to be disciplined. Stick to the map, stick to what you're seeing. Secondly is trust your compass. People kind of they go, oh, I can feel it's this way, but the compass saying that. People look for excuses and they stop trusting their compass. Don't. Trust your compass. Always trust that compass. And then the final good little tip I wanted to give you is, if you're aiming for a point that's on a distinct line, like a ridge line, or like a edge of a forest, or coastline. Maybe you're reaching the coast, you can't remember. When you reach the coast, you turn left or right to meet your camp. A good tip is always to aim off a little bit. Instead of aiming directly where my camp was, I'm going to aim maybe a few hundred, maybe half a kilometer to the right. So when I eventually reach that coastline, if I've been a little left or right, doesn't really matter. I know I reach the coastline, I turn left, and I'm gonna eventually reach that camp. So remembering these simple things is so key. Bearing, what's your direction? Distance, how far you gotta go? Time, how long is it gonna take you? Features, what are you gonna see along the way? And backdrop, what is gonna be ahead of you to tell you you've gone too far? If you remember all those sort of things, you have no reason ever to get lost. And really, navigation isn't more complicated than that. There are more complicated parts of it. We'll talk about those things another time. I wanted just to cover the basics. And if you remember these basics, you'll keep yourself and your group orientated and stop you getting lost. And if in doubt, stop, assess, ask, and do it early.